Channel 6 at 6.
I'm Brad Means.
I'm Jenny Montgomery. Thanks for staying with us tonight. The living are fighting over the dead in Langley, South Carolina. There's a big controversy in Aiken County over a small cemetery off Augusta Road, about 30 minutes east of downtown Augusta. Who owns the rights to the land there? And who has the authority to make sure the deceased get the right kind of constant care?
Well, this conversation started with a call from a viewer saying she's caring for the cemetery and wants to keep people from going out there and running over headstones, driving around carelessly. But then came the controversy. So we sent Ashley Bridges to get answers in our big story.
And Ashley, there is a lot more beneath the surface of that initial call.
Jenny, there is. The controversy I unearthed is fascinating. People on both sides say they have the best of intentions, but I was tasked with finding answers for who actually has authority over this cemetery. And the reason people on both sides care, they say, is because they want to see the cemetery and their loved ones cared for. But they disagree on whether that means changing a decades-old layout of the cemetery. Regardless, you should care because this could set a precedent for other property. Stephanie Lott called News Channel 6 to complain about people desecrating the home of the dead.
And it's just a shame that you can come up here and look and say, wow, some people are driving over other people's graves.
She says she's now in charge of the Langley Cemetery and wants to be sure it's cared for. She says it was passed to her by a former caretaker. As for who owns the land, she says nobody knows.
There is no physical deed for the cemetery. It was owned by United Merchants many years ago.
Lott wants to close the roads across the cemetery. She says they allow people to run over graves, and she says the plots could bring a profit for upkeep. Others say she's running over their rights.
She just handed them the books. Handed it over to them. But that's not the legal way to do it.
Pastor Jack Scott says he has 29 relatives buried in Langley.
Great-great-grandfather, great-great-grandmother.
He says Lott does not have that authority.
We need to know how they got the power to do what they're doing, because there's no way you form a committee.
He says elderly visitors need the paths to get access to graves, and he isn't going to be told what to do.
I'm gonna fight you to the end about it. Now that may sound cruel coming from the preacher, but I'm a fighting preacher. You know, don't cut no ice with me. When you're wrong, and these people are wrong.
Lott says she just wants to care for land that is ill kept.
We want it to be something, like I said, everybody can be proud of.
But all of this talk of who has authority should come down to one answer: who has the deed? We talked to Lott, to residents nearby, to the Aiken County Tax Assessor's Office, and to the South Carolina Department of Labor and Licensing. And when it comes to these tens of acres, they say nobody knows. Obviously, with all those no's to who knows, this couldn't be figured out in a day, but we know this is important to the Aiken County community, so I'm going to keep digging until we find out who the rightful owner of that deed is, and then what's next for the property and the people buried there. In the meantime, both sides are having separate meetings about the cemetery at the same time, 7 p.m. in Langley on Monday, May 20th. Jenny?